We're back. It is episode 2. I don't have to introduce Cliff this time.
I had to restrain myself from what I've done in every test we've done this week.
This is the real deal, Cliff.
I had to stop.
I just want you to know that Cliff will test with a certain word, and then I laugh hysterically because not only is he 9, but I too am 9. So thank you for not letting us ever grow up. Let's blame everybody else. But we are back. It is All Angles Podcast. And the funny thing is, I know I said we're going to be talking about everything, but the first 2 episodes are definitely sticking with hockey. And I have to stick with hockey, and I have to kick this off with holy Brad Marchand.
Normally where do I go? Normally I would say he's earning himself a lot of money right now, but he's also 38 years old, so I don't know how much he's really earning. But it's so hard to just say, yeah, he's putting on a show. That's for sure.
I mean, 37, 38. Is he 38? I thought he's 37, something
He's
like
38. Yeah, he's 38. I mean, he still might win it. It kind of depends on how the next couple, hopefully 2 games go. It's looking more and more like one more. But if he'd have been at this pace the whole playoffs, I mean, the Conn Smythe's already a done deal. But, you know, he's just turned the finals into his own little show.
Yeah, and I know this is one of those things, like one of the first things you said is we're not going to talk about the NHL, but you have to. Because Stanley Cup Finals is so exciting. Like,
It hasn't been, though. This is the thing.
Last year was great when Edmonton came back from 3 games to 1.
But even then, I don't know. Yeah. It's so funny, though, because I mentioned to you earlier that I got a little, Mick Kern, who's been on NHL radio for 20-something years now. He and I have had a few Twitter exchanges. Nothing bad, actually, all good. And one of them actually came up on his broadcast last week. It was after the game where Edmonton got the brakes beat off of him. But we were spoiled in game 1 and game 2. There's no question. Absolutely spoiled. Just epic. And then from there, I've tuned out almost every other game at some point to see what else was on, including last night.
Yeah, last night they got beat pretty good too. But game 4 is exciting for all the wrong reasons. I mean, to be down 3-0 and then win it 5-4 in overtime, the back and forth, but the first 15 minutes of the game, I watched Florida was up 3-0 and I just kind of muted it and had it on in the background.
Oh, I didn't even mute it. I completely turned it off.
I just turned around and I looked and the score was 3-3. I
started watching some of my random stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, and we both said we want Edmonton to win this.
Yeah, not happening.
It is so fun to see Marchand right now. Marchand made that move around Wallman last night. Like he was like Marchand was 6'4" and Wallman was 5'10". He just scooped around his back and came through him, and it was.
I'm still hoping Edmonton pulls it out. I don't want Florida to win. I do want a Canadian team to win. I want our boy Callie Larson to be a part of his first cup, now that he's working for Edmonton. But man, it's hard to really get too on board with them winning 2 in a row here.
And on your name drop, this wasn't even part of the plan for today. But let's talk about progression and advancement. Well, our buddy Callie.
Well, hang on. We could honestly save this for another show because there's a few guys we could include in this.
Yeah,
Josh Hauge's another one.
Yeah, Hauge's definitely another one. I still love how Hauge was so shocked to see me.
But the ultimate one you mentioned last week was John Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
He went from his tier 3 juniors to where he is now.
To all those Stanley Cups. But I mean, you got Callie, which Callie was Jeremy's buddy first. And we met him through Jeremy, much like so many people.
Such a good guy.
Yeah, and then he was coaching. He was an assistant coach at Lawrence University, which is it was a small D3 school. And we saw him. I remember we were playing against you guys, and he had a game beforehand somewhere when you were with Dells, and I was in Central Wisconsin.
I wasn't with Dells.
I'm sorry, when you were with Marquette. Oh, maybe I didn't see you. Maybe you weren't there then. Maybe it was us and Dells. But anyway.
Might have been Zamboni then.
Yeah. Saw him there. And then for him to go and then just kill it in Dubuque. and now him up in Edmonton, and it's just awesome. But obviously nobody deserves it more than Callie.
I don't know. He put in the work. He's a great guy. He and I still chat about once a month. He always reaches out to check in how I'm doing. I've tried to get him to hire me in Dubuque for years. Didn't happen. If he wasn't going to hire me in Dubuque, then my chances of him hiring me in Edmonton are real slim.
Yes. You might want to start kicking the tires on that one a little bit.
No, I'm not. Yeah.
But it's funny because nobody wants 3 people to coach together more than Callie wants me, you, and Jeremy back on the bench together. It's always, when's the band getting back together?
I know.
You know what just dawned on me, Cliff? Are we just like some kind of circus show for Callie?
Are you just now figuring this out?
I thought
that was always the case.
I was just trying to be hopeful, man. But dang. All right, Callie. We're still proud of you though. But yeah, that could be a totally different show. And I want Callie. I want to see a photo of Callie lifting the cup.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Sorry, Callie. It's just the 2 in a row right now after the way things been going. I don't see it happening.
But Callie, if you do win, and not to mention.
By the way, sorry, I'm going to interrupt because I will say he may be watching this because last time he and I talked was literally about 2 weeks ago, and he was pretty pumped that we were doing this, starting this podcast.
It's a first step for him. He's like, yes, start here, end up on the bench.
Yeah.
But Callie, come to Washington. Like, what the hell? I don't think his position really travels with the team much, but I definitely would have seen him, especially since the away team locker room and everything was right across from where our photo room was. So it's bananas that he wasn't there. But Callie, make the trip to Washington this year because Lord knows the photographer doesn't travel unless it's a big deal.
The one thing I've never actually, and I'm just pulling it up right now because I don't have a sniff of what actually he does.
Director of player personnel or player development.
Player development. I just haven't talked to him about what that means.
Yeah, so, I mean, every team obviously has one.
Yeah,
and
but I think it's a relatively new position in the NHL. When I say relatively, I mean 10 years?
Yeah,
or so.
I think it's one of those things where it's like he'll work with guys. It's a non-PR version of development. So where you get PR people that make sure image and representation of the team and everything goes well.
Well, I mean, he's definitely on the hockey side.
Yeah.
Because that's him. I mean, he's a hockey guy, and that's what he does. I mean, he was
another tall, handsome Swede.
Damn Swedes.
We had a Swede that wasn't tall or handsome and didn't smell good.
Yeah, we did have that.
And he stunk up your futon. Even Maverick wouldn't sleep with him.
Oh God.
But that's actually a good segue. That's the segue I needed. Right? Because
from the smelly Swede to junior hockey.
Yeah,
I guess that works.
This is the time of year right now where you have showcases, a billion tryout camps going on for teams. You have everything called main camp, and I want to kind of tackle that as per what I remember of it. I think it's still the same thing.
It's a little different, but not far off. Yeah.
So everybody who's gone to the juniors will get the emails. They'll get the letters in the mail. You'll get the phone calls. We want you to come to main camp. And main camp is a couple different things. Main camp no longer is really main camp. Main camp is just like a big tryout camp. It's a huge fundraising things for the teams, which is fine. These teams need to raise money for the season so they can provide for the players that meet it. A lot of players that go to main camp probably don't really have a chance of making the team. However, if they're pretty good, they can get themselves known and they can make themselves seen in these camps. 2 of our guys in New Mexico were not on the radar at all. Yeah. They went to some main camps, came to us. They went to main camps the next year and actually got some pretty good looks. I'm talking about Eric Hewitt, Dakota Bolio. Those main camps do work if you're one of those like borderline guys, but it is a big money thing. And then for families, it's a lot of money, especially because these main camps are usually nowhere near where you live. They try and do in popular cities. I know Dallas has a billion of them. Where's some more? Chicago, St. Louis, like Boston.
Well, it's funny. Dallas just has, as far as I know these days, the one, and it's not huge. It's fairly selective, in fact. The one that's run by, I don't remember the actual name of it, but the guys running it are, the guys from the Brahmas and the guys from Stars Elite are kind of in charge of it, but they don't run it as part of those organizations, if that makes sense.
So they kind of run their own. So it's not really much of a camp. It's just a general scouting camp.
Yeah, and they will invite a pretty high level talent, and the coaches there that are watching and scouting. Like the times I went, and I'm coaching tier 3, I was the lowest level of coach there by quite a bit. I mean, it was USHL guys, it was NCAA Div 1 guys. I mean, that's who was there watching. It was, I mean, even go so far as say there was some WHL teams there watching, because in Dallas, that's the route they would go as WHL. They couldn't do the OHL stuff and all that.
There's a couple guys that went up to the dub from the Dallas area too. Dallas is producing a lot of good hockey players.
Well, yeah, there's no question. I mean, we talked last week about kind of my history, but since the Stars have been there, and this is a whole other argument with me, and you and I have talked about this for years. Hockey didn't start when the Stars showed up, but it definitely exploded and got big and got better. And there's been, a lot of talent that has made their way all the way to the NHL at this point. Now, it's so funny. Depends on, like, I'll use the Jones brothers as an example, Seth and Caleb Jones. Their dad, obviously, Popeye Jones, played for the Dallas Mavericks for years, and they were born in Dallas. But depending on who you ask, there's multiple teams that have those guys' pictures on their wall claiming everything. The Colorado Thunderbirds claim that they got them there. Dallas Stars Elite have their pictures on the wall, claim they got them there. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of that. But it is kind of neat now going back to, and this will all build into the main conversation today, but it is, I will be, and at some point we might even get into this along the way here, I'm the biggest critic of how hockey is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and Texas in general. You want to see me go off, we'll get into that conversation someday. But
Episode
it is still
10.
neat. It is still neat to walk into that rink in Valley Ranch, which was the rink my family helped build, I kind of grew up in, and see all the pictures on the wall of former Dallas Stars Elite players. Now, let's be clear, they're not all from Dallas. They're getting them from elsewhere, getting them from all over the country, and some Russians, but they played out of that system and have either gone on to, USHL, play in Europe, or there's a big list that have gone to the NHL as well.
Is that the one that's by where the Cowboys used to practice?
Yeah, it was right back in the day. There were literally 3 buildings in Valley Ranch. There was the Cowboys practice facility. There was North Texas Ice Arena, which is now the Star Center there. And then there was a good Mexican restaurant place about half a mile down the road. That sounds like a land of paradise, if you ask me. It was perfect. Perfect.
Except for the Cowboys part, but the football part is cool. But
that's the building when I interned with the Cowboys. That's the building I was in for 3 years or so.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember that rink, and I remember there's a lot of seating in that rink. Like, that's a rink.
It's not bad, and that rink on that side is not the original rink, because when that place was originally built, and it was North Texas Ice Arena, it was a single sheet facility, and the rink on the left, which doesn't have all the seating in it, is the original rink. They added the one on the right, added all the seating, and that all happened when the Stars showed up, because that was originally the Stars practice facility. They're now up in Frisco, like the Cowboys are. But that was
Frisco. Are they playing where the? Oh no, obviously that's Allen. There's 2 big rinks up there.
Yeah. Allen's about 5-10 minutes down the road from the Frisco rink there. I don't remember what they call it now. It was Comerica Arena. I think it's called something else now. Maybe it is Comerica.
That's like right near where I used to live when I lived in Addison.
Yeah, it's not far. Yeah, for sure. And it's that whole area has exploded, because that's, again, when you talk about Frisco, obviously Cowboys are up there now. Their facility's just insane. Been there a couple times. The Stars facility is really nice. They've got the big main arena where the Texas Tornado used to play when they moved from North Wichita Hills many years ago. So they got a full-on arena, does concerts and everything. ACHA did their national tournament there I think it was the year before I joined Jeremy at Missouri State. I think the year before that is when it was in Dallas. And then when they say Dallas, It's
Right.
the whole area. It was
The
up in Frisco.
Robertson Cup was there back when I still lived there.
Well, that's what I
a
was saying.
couple
The
times.
Tornado used to play there back in the day. And then sharing a parking garage with the Stars Arena is the Frisco Rough Riders, which is the Texas Rangers, my Rangers. Wait, where is it? There it is. Yep, my Rangers affiliate. Just show off the. We're not going to do it again anytime soon, so I'll just show off the World Series Cup.
I do love that. I do love that cup there, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. But anyway, so that whole area is built up, and there again, there's the junior connection because the Tornado that started many years ago when the rink in North Richland Hills before it was NITEX was called Blue Line. That's where the Tornado began. That rink shut down. That was a whole mess.
I think that's where Anthony Bone played too, because Anthony Bone played for the
Probably.
Tornado. And
Well,
so
he could have played there, or he might have still been with them when they moved to the rink in Frisco when they were there for quite a while. So yeah, it was it's a nice setup there in Frisco. It's just massive. Oh, FC Dallas plays up there too. They're right down the street as well.
And that area is where that humongous high school football stadium is.
Which one? I mean, I know the one you're talking about because Allen has a big one.
I think that's the one I'm talking about. The
McKinney,
one in Allen.
McKinney has a big one. I still remember years ago.
It's huge.
What's that?
Mesquite has a huge high school football.
They all do.
Stadium.
I mean, again, typical us getting off topic here, but I still remember when I was at Northwood. By the way, switched up the back, my old Northwood leather jacket back here.
Nice. There you go.
My buddy Pico, who I mentioned last time, played at Bowling Green. He was my roommate at Northwood, Chicago kid. He came down to visit one spring break, stayed with me and my family for spring break. And as we left the airport going to my house, we passed by a football stadium. He goes, "Man, what university is that?" It's like, "Yeah, that's my old high school, man."
That's exactly what I said.
By the way,
Mesquites.
and by the way, that thing's tiny compared to all the rest of them. I mean, this was back in the 90s. Now they're just cathedrals. And
it's funny because you look at movies like Friday Night Lights and stuff, they're playing in a pretty modest football stadium for Texas.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're talking, that was in Odessa area, Permian, and Midland, Odessa out there where there's nothing. It's just oil country. And so there's not a lot of people. So it's going to be small. And then they show up and play at the original Texas Stadium. Yeah. So anyways, off topic, shocker.
I know, right? What sport are we talking about?
It's taken us about 15 minutes or so to get off topic here.
This program is 17 by ADHD. But yeah, and it's funny. So we do apologize about that tangent. We're talking about camps, summer camps, off-season camps. Yeah. Holy crap, you'd never know.
Well, okay, let's get back because things. Before we go too further with that, because you mentioned kind of how they have changed a bit. I don't know. There's not a lot of the tier 3 level teams, the NA3 teams and all that doing quote unquote tryout camps, main camps and all that. They're just not going to get people to them. There's too many other options. So they're having to find other ways. They're just having to find other ways to make money now, which is, again, like you said, whether we like it or not, I hate it, but it's a business. It's the end of the day. It's what you have to do if you don't have a billionaire owner that can keep it afloat without doing that. That's how it's going to happen. NA teams are still doing the main camp thing and all that. But
and they are getting players out of these main camps.
They do.
I'm not trying to say they don't, but I mean, they mostly have their rosters.
And I'm glad you brought that up because, when you and I were coaching together and even when I did, in fact, I still do get this question. Local kids here in Springfield. I get the question often, should I go to this main camp? My buddy Pico, who played at the highest levels, he's still trying to figure this out too. He's asking me, should I go to this main camp? And my first thing you got to know is, yes, they want your money. I mean, there's just no getting around it. They want your money. Does that mean you're just showing up to hand over a check and get a few sessions on the ice and you're done? For some kids, yeah. There's just no getting around it. Doesn't mean you're not going to be seen, though, because the one thing I think needs to be that's not, and I understand why they wouldn't mention it a lot. If you're going to go, and I'm not signaling anybody out, we just happened to mention them last week, is let's say Springfield Junior Blues are holding a camp, and you're going to go to that. They're not going to promote they might say it to you privately or whatever. They're not going to sit there and promote, oh, yeah, we're going to have all these other NA3 teams there to watch you as well.
Yeah.
They want you to come thinking you're going to try and make their team. And you might, like you said. Yes, they've got draft picks, they've got tenders, they've got returning players. So a majority of their roster's filled. But if a kid shows up that's better than anything they already have, you better believe they're going to make room.
Yeah, and you can go to main camp. Like when you go to a main camp, especially if you're not a guy who's been offered a tender or a contract yet, your main focus should be making training camp, because they can load up the roster in training camp and go make some noise in training camp. But the off season should be focused on development. So there's a couple really good showcases out there. Whether you're going to get recruited or not, you should look to go play at better showcases to play against better players, like the global showcases, especially the one up in Vancouver. That used to be a great one, and by all means, hit the buzzer if they've changed.
Well, again, we go back to the problem is there's so many now. Even the ones that are notoriously on the higher end, the global ones are still good, but maybe not as good as they once were, but they are still good. I mean, I went with Lozzie to Chicago last year, the year before last, I guess, and it was okay. It wasn't terrible. It was okay. I don't like any. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are some that are again, it depends on where you are. So, like, again, we mentioned global. Global's got Vancouver, Chicago, Vegas. Jeremy, literally, as we speak, is in Vegas right now with his dad for Global Vegas. It starts tomorrow.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Jeremy and Vegas are synonymous, by the way.
Yeah. The one thing working in our favor is his friend that doesn't want to see him get in trouble is not only is his dad there, obviously his dad, he and his dad work with the global guys. They, run some of the teams, run some practices, but his mother's there.
Is she?
All three of his daughters are there, and his nieces are there. So it's it's Father's Day today, too, as we're recording this. So it's going to be a big family thing.
Right. Happy Father's Day, Lozzie.
Yeah, happy Father's Day. But so the global ones are still good. I don't know how great I would say the Chicago one is. Vegas is going to be good every year just because people want to go to Vegas. Like the parents will go to Vegas and just drop their kid off and say, go skate. I'm out.
You have to mention the deals they get on the hotels, like when they block them out. Yeah. Such good deals.
Who doesn't want to go to Vancouver?
Yeah, Vancouver's amazing. Remember with the Whistle, our league, when we had league stuff, rooms $29 a night?
Oh, yeah.
For us at the Stratosphere? Everyone's like, the Stratosphere sucks. I'm like, for $29 a night, this is the best hotel in Vegas.
Strat was beauty. But... and then there's leagues are doing their own things now. Obviously, the combines, NA's got their combines, which are different from the USHL combines. USHL combines are more legit. They're bringing in top end talent. NA combines, they're just kind of a showcase for NA3 kids, if we want to be brutally honest, because that's coaches are required to be there. And again, you may find that diamond in the rough. You just never know. An example would be like if it was a kid like me when I grew up and we didn't know anything. My family knew nothing. We were in hockey forever, but we didn't know what juniors were. We didn't know any of that. The prep school thing happened because of a family connection. That's how I ended up
to an unbelievable prep school, for crying out loud.
Yeah, it worked out amazing, but we didn't know. You started talking last week about how when we were growing up, we had this and that and the juniors and all that. I didn't know what any of that was back then. Not a clue. And there's still people to this day that. Even with everything we can research online and do all that, there's still so many questions you don't know. And that also means that that player may not have gotten out there, may be playing in a small city, small town somewhere where he's not getting the publicity that, the kids in Dallas and St. Louis, Chicago, wherever they might be are getting. And he shows up at one of these camps and then you see every coach at the same time just go, huh, okay.
Yep. And I was actually watching a different podcast about this too, and they touched on this. I don't know if you've seen the goalie online. He goes Heffy is his name.
No.
He played at I think Mercyhurst.
Okay.
And good goalie. He does the Wish Cup with my buddy Johnny Schiavo. Which quick tangent, this hat. Everybody asks about this hat all the time. Johnny Schiavo. It is.
Oh.
A hockey guy, of course, will see that.
Yeah.
I've had people think it's a whale or a bunny. But I
thought it was literally the rollerblade logo, like the rollerblade.
Oh, remember
company.
that?
Yeah,
no, it's his company, Best Shift Training. It used to just be Johnny Schiavo Hockey, which is why over here somewhere the logo, his JS logo, is still there.
Yeah, I saw. By the way, I can't the right left on camera is really still throwing me off.
It's but on top of the fact
I was
we're
trying
not
to
very
point at
intelligent.
something to you over here earlier, and I'm going, yeah, this thing. Oh, damn it, it's over there.
We're just showcasing our actual intelligence level. Let's not blame the cameras.
All right.
But yeah, Johnny's got an awesome camp. He's also one of the top junior players in the world. Actually, that Sparks skate sharpening company
Yeah.
just sent him one of those things. And like, but Johnny's awesome. Go buy stuff from his company. Unsolicited plug. I'm just a huge fan of Johnny. But anyway, so the podcast with Heffy on it was talking about it's even important the way you show up at a showcase, whether
100%.
it's one that you don't think you need, whether it's one you don't know who's going to be there. It doesn't matter, because even if say there's no big coaches there, the coaches all still talk to each other.
100%.
I think during the recruiting season, we spent our time 50-50 talking to players as we did other coaches. And if you show up, and they bring up a very good point. There was 3 different guys that walked in there. A Texas guy is mentioned in this story. And I'll link the video after we do this. Texas guy walks in, he's wearing like nice jeans, button-up shirt, and a cowboy hat. He's not dressed up, but he looks clean.
Right.
And he's a Texas kid. And Heffy was talking to the Princeton coach, apparently. And the Princeton coach was like, I like this kid. I want to see him play. Made an impression, still was presentable. Second kid, I guess, walked in looking like a slob, shorts, tank top, was making out with his girl at the front door. Third guy walked in a full 3-piece suit. And he brought up the best point he brought up is coaches immediately will see that and just say they know the kids that are there for hockey or the kids that are there for vacation. And I actually watched that 10 minutes before we started this. And I was like, dang, that's exactly kind of what me and Cliff are going to be talking about today. And I wanted to bring that up because that's such a true thing. I mean, he was standing there with the coach of Princeton, NCAA Division I hockey at a prestigious university. And, you know, your whole life can be panned out for you if you end up at a school like Princeton or Yale or Harvard, let alone any university.
Yeah.
But they're paying attention to how you come in and present yourself. And if you go in there just being an absolute dipshit, that's how you're representing yourself as a hockey player. Are you taking your off season seriously? Are you there as someone? Now, you don't need to show up in a 3-piece suit.
Right.
You can show up in khakis and a polo, have your shirt tucked in, look presentable, have your hair brushed. You know, don't look like you rolled out of bed and got to the rink. And even though it's just showcase and not an actual game, take your pregame and everything seriously. Do your actual game pregame and get out there and be the best version of yourself. Even if the rest of the showcase sucks and you get out there and run show, then your name is going to be the one talked about. And other coaches are going to be like, yeah, this whole showcase is pretty terrible. But let me tell you about this kid that made everybody look like fools.
Well, and that's just it. And I want to add to that, but let me just quickly kind of finish up the kind of, I don't know if you want to call it a list of things that are out there. The CCM showcase in Denver is still huge. It's still just gigantic. It's probably the biggest single location event every
Is that still
year.
Littleton?
It's it's at the edge, the promenade or whatever it is, that really nice area. It's got 3 sheets. It's where the Rough Riders used to be. They've got their own kind of setup now.
So it's moved because it used to be in Littleton where Jeremy did his Players Edge camp.
I hadn't been there in a while. Yeah, I hadn't been there in quite a while.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, it's just gigantic. It's the biggest single thing out there. I keep hitting my mic.
What about Chowder?
Don't hear much about Chowder anymore. You just don't. I don't know, unless you're out east. I don't personally know of any, let's just say ACHA guys. I don't know any of my ACHA coaching buddies that go to that. I mean, we had fun with it, but we also had kind of a mess with it.
We had fun. We had a mess, and then
we almost got kicked out of it. But
we almost killed the
Paul
guy that was
Stewart.
going to end up in a We almost killed a guy that ended up having a pretty good NHL career. In fact, plays for the Capitals now.
Yeah. No,
I told him that story, by the way. I think I told you. And then we were talking about the kid Eric Hewitt earlier, and Eric Hewitt could have absolutely laid out a guy that plays in the NHL. And I was telling that player about the story, and he goes, "He should have hit me."
Yeah. The best part for me about Chowder, I mean, yes, getting our guys there to get noticed was great. I don't know how many we're getting actually noticed because the games that were going on in the other rink had the big names in it.
we played against a team that had 7 OHL guys on the team.
Yeah, which means they were already there. No one needed to watch them. So, but on the other rink at the same time, I'm pretty sure that was when like Goudreau was playing and Eichel and all those guys were out there. And, Yeah, we're just
Gaudreau and Milano
and
were
our
on the
guys
same
are
page.
trying to fight everybody, and we're getting yelled at by Paul Stewart after the game, who was a fighter in his day and then became an official.
I mean, he
But
was right.
he was absolutely right. Our guys were being idiots. But anyways,
Clifford
but
had
anyways,
this look on the bench very often.
yeah, no, it was not a good situation. But it was a fun experience, especially getting to see those other games and what the future
Man,
of
some good
NHL.
players.
Oh, crazy. There are some new showcases out there that are kind of ACHA related, which I appreciate, even though it may not be necessary for the Division I side of things. And they're through Capper Hockey's doing stuff. Josh Caprio, or Joey Caprio. Sorry, Joey. Played the ACHA. Great.
Why do I know that name?
You know that name. Yeah. You'll have to look him up later. I'll send you his link. You'll remember Joey. I think we coached against him even. But anyways, great guy. He's kind of a advisor, if you will. Now, I don't exactly know. His main thing is running some of these camps. He does showcases over the summer in various locations, including some that you wouldn't think of. He did one this year up in North Dakota, in fact. But he's got one in Vegas directly after Global ends, which I find a little weird. But he's picked some pretty neat spots. He's got a St. Louis one. They do one out in New Jersey. I think he's got one or two more now. And then he also does actual ACHA tournaments during the season with like we've been invited to one in Chicago. We're going to Chicago this year for a 3-day showcase, and it's ACHA showcase with Joey Caprio running it.
Oh, wow.
Don't have all the details on that yet. We have a general idea of who we're playing, but it's not official yet, so I can't say much.
Yeah, you know what? I do remember you talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to end up playing all top 10, maybe even top 5 teams, which is pretty unreal. But
that's a heck of a test for you guys.
Yeah, it's what we want. So, but yeah, so he's got those camps. Again, like I mentioned, the NA combines, which are, just being brutally honest, they're not for NA guys unless there's someone you just don't know about. And then there's always these various other, little satellite showcases out there. And there are teams doing their own thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, but it's primarily NA teams or USHL teams. And then the NA3 teams are just, it's too hard for them to try to do their own thing these days. There's too many other options.
That's a lot of money they got to put up front for not knowing if they're going to get it back.
Yeah. And as you and I know, when we were coaching, one of the biggest things our team owners wanted us to do was fill those camps. That's where they made a lot of their buck for the year. And it's one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah. They want us to fill those camps, get these kids to pay $500-600 on top of their travel, and then say, hey,
congratulations,
$800-$8,500.
Yeah.
Because that's what it was in New Mexico. It was $8,500 plus bill it. And then you had to buy your own damn sticks. We gave you helmets, gloves, and a shell, and obviously your jerseys and socks. But that's tough, man. And again, we've talked about how we're going to be doing an episode on cost. We'll get to that, and those fees are all included for sure. But if I were to do, let's do this game real quick. I'm going to say if I were to do a showcase in the summer, let's take out the recruiting part. If you're a kid who's in the off season, you want to play some good hockey and get a good weekend out of it, here's what I would do. And with you being a lot more involved in what's happening right now, tell me what you would do different or change. My plan would be, you have a showcase. It's a 4-day showcase. Most of them are Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sunday's the big risk, is a lot of kids have already left to go home, so you end up with skeleton teams. You do a Wednesday through Saturday tournament. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yep. Okay. I had to do the math and make sure I had 4 days there. It is still tough on parents, but you have a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday showcase. Wednesday is a rival, and then you actually do an off-ice combine. You do your strength testing, your speed, your jump, all that kind of stuff. You even if you can get a company to come in and do it and check your cardio and check all that kind of stuff. This is what the NHL guys do, and kids would go to these showcases want a Division I / professional atmosphere while they're there to feel like something's going to come out of it. And then you play games Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You have on Saturday, instead of a championship game, you do a couple all-star games, maybe 4-team all-star game, and you play 2 shortened games on Saturday, maybe 2 40-minute games. on that Saturday. So then at least the scouts that are going to be there, which since it's Saturday, it's easier for a scout to be there on Saturday if you're really going the route of scouts. But also, it's easier to be there on Saturday. You have more people in the building, and then you get the top guys from the camp that weekend, but everyone else has still already played 3 games. And so you kind of have all that. It'll be a little bit costly, but if the families have the money to do it, hockey's already such a massive investment. But you get out there, you can actually see, again, you separate the kids who are there for vacation versus the kids that are there for hockey. But you kind of get a little bit more of a competitive weekend.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I've mentioned it many times just in the 2 episodes we've done so far. I listened to NHL radio during the day because this will be part of kind of cost thing as well when it comes to the coaching side of things and how a lot of us have to have other jobs. We're not all fortunate enough to be full time,
we definitely should have had other jobs when we were in New Mexico.
Oh yeah. Well, and thinking about how we would approach that, I was going to bring that up. And again, that's all again, as we're producing on the fly and coming up with show ideas, This is kind of how it's happening here. Cause that, in fact, I hope to get my buddy Adam Bartholomew on at some point, because he and I have talked about this for years, and the idea of getting a coaching union put together that he'd kind of been working on that was for juniors in colleges and coaches and all that. But anyways, when I'm at my other job during the day, I'm listening to NHL radio, and it's this literally came up yesterday. I was listening Saturday as I was running errands, because the NHL Combine just wrapped up, and NFL does theirs, NBA does theirs. They all do this, and all this off-ice testing. Maybe it's the old school in me, but even some of the more modern guys these days have kind of a similar thing. What's the point? What's the point of putting a kid on a stationary bike with an oxygen thing on him and having him go 30 seconds? What is that telling me about what kind of competitor he's going to be on the ice, or what he's going to be?
I don't 16, 17 years old.
I don't give a damn about any of that.
What's funny is, even though I said I wanted a combine in my thing, because that just is the pro experience, I saw a thing. Sam Bennett couldn't even do 1 pull-up. He's
Tom
doing all right.
Brady.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. We've all seen the picture and laughed from Tom Brady at the combine. Like, stop with all that. It's a made-for-TV event, especially for the NFL. It's becoming that way for the NBA. NHL Network occasionally will show some of it, but mainly just the games. That part I do want to watch. That's the fun part. Anytime they're showing the prospect games and all that, I'm tuned in. That's my favorite thing in the world.
So for the rookie weekend, we don't even the Capitals don't even do it anymore because they kept getting guys hurt.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would argue that's part of the game too, though. It's you gotta you run the risk of getting hurt anytime you touch the ice, whether it's in a prospect skate or it's in an NHL game. So let's go play.
Could be in practice, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and we see it all the time. But where I was going with that is the off-ice part of these camps, and some of them are doing this, and it's really good. There's another showcase I went to that I forgot to mention earlier up in Chicago, Jog, that does apparel and stuff. Good guys with Jog. They do our jerseys. Well, none that I've hanging up here. I got a couple laying over here.
They do your jury jerseys?
They do our jury jerseys.
God, that was hard to say.
Jury is hard to say. I'm sorry. I love where I am, but
I feel drunk when I try and say it.
And I've been told I say it wrong too, but I don't know how you're supposed to say it right. Anyways, so they Jog Athletics they do a showcase up in Chicago. The Blackhawks do it with them. It's at that Fifth Third Arena, which at some point someone's going to have to explain to me what Fifth Third is.
To bank.
I know that. I'm saying I suck at math to begin with. What's a Fifth Third?
There you go. I'm so bad at math, I didn't even realize that was wrong.
Yeah. But anyways, I realize it's a bank, but anyways, I digress.
Maybe you don't want that bank handling your money.
But what they did up there, and some other ones do this too, it's making it educational. Global does this. They've always been good at this. And that's, you have, all these teams are, you stay with your team, and then teams get in groups and they go one at a time to these little educational seminars where coaches at the ACHA, NCAA, wherever will speak. What they did at the one I went to in Chicago is, well, they had, we were joking about it among the coaches. They had Denis Savard speak to all the kids, and all of us are sitting there going, none of these kids know who the hell that is.
Yeah.
None of them. Absolute legend. Was a hero of mine growing up, just a stud. None of these kids. The
Which
parents.
one is this?
It was the jog showcase in Chicago last year I did, and they run it with the Blackhawks. So it's, you know, we got to. Well, so what they did is they brought all the kids up at one point up to, it's actually the workout. It's their practice rink is where we were. The Blackhawks practice rink. They're right by the arena. So we were up in their workout facility, which is really cool setup above their locker room. And this is where they had tables set up all around through some of these other, and I ended up weirdly in a back room with 3-4 other schools where they gave each of us a table where we can lay out information and just stand there and families can come talk to us. But anyways, before that even happened is they had multiple speakers, including Denis Savard, and ACHA people, because it was primarily an ACHA event. So they had some ACHA people get up there and talk about the league and this and that. So, and you know, the educational side of it, to me, at those kind of events, that's way more important than go run on a treadmill or to go do this and that.
Or how high can you jump? Even
What I don't like, and you mentioned Jeremy's camp that he used to have that he doesn't anymore. I don't like the fact that, and if they do exist, I don't hear about them anymore. That those kinds of things. I mean, you and I are probably the same. I grew up going to Minnesota hockey camps. Did that for a couple of years. My brother used to do the Can-Am camps and made Team Can-Am. I used to go to Stars hockey camp. That's where I met the Howe family. That's how I became friends with the Howe family. I roomed with Travis Howe, Gordy's grandson, for a couple of years up there in Peterborough. These camps that are week, sometimes 2 weeks long. Minnesota hockey camps, I think, had a month-long one version where you go and you learn the game. Yes, there are games involved. End of the week, you play games. During the week, it's practices, it's skills, it is the off-ice. Where is that? That's what I, as a coach, would much rather see.
When I was a younger kid, I did the Buffalo Sabres hockey camps, and which was that, but it was a week long. And then when I was 13 or 14, I did the Shmushkins Academy when it first came to Canada. It went to Toronto, and it was used to only be in Moscow. Finally, after the fall of communism and stuff like that, after a few years, they were able to bring it to America. Yeah, right. Communism, for those of you who don't know, go watch Miracle. But yeah, like they had the Shmushkins Academy that was 2 weeks long, and the first 6 days we didn't even touch pucks. It was all skating, and it was the wacky Soviet training. Like we were doing somersaults on the ice and stuff like that. But one thing I could tell you, so in hockey, I had all my friends in hockey. I was one of the slower guys. I came back from that one of the fastest guys. And it was crazy. Everyone's like, what happened? And I'm like, Russians. The Russians happened.
This is going to sound, I'm going to contradict myself because hockey in general has never been at a higher skill level than it is right now. Just watch what's going on in the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, these guys are doing things we didn't even think about 20, 30 years, even 10 years ago. It's just insane, some of the stuff they can do.
Well, look how long it became before the Michigan goal actually caught mainstream.
Yeah, right?
That was done forever ago, and nobody started doing it until the last few years.
And here's the other thing about what these guys are doing. Now, Marchand aside, because he's not a big guy. These guys are doing it, and they're 6'5", 6'6". These are monsters that are skating around like they're the 5'8" guys back when we played. It's insane. But there's a variety of reasons for that, because these guys are all old enough to have grown up in that camp era, the skills camp era. But even more than that, and again, as I was driving around this morning on an errand, this came up. They were actually talking to, it was a Prospects Radio on HL where they were talking to one of the upcoming first round prospects who's I think he's an Alberta farm kid. We've got a couple of those on our team, like literally right off the farm.
Dude, those kids that are farm tough.
But it wasn't even just that. This is where I was going. Yes, there is that, because we've got a few of those on our team. They brought up, like, what do you do when you're not on the ice? What do you do over the summer? They're not playing hockey.
No. There's no ice.
I don't mind. There comes an age, as we know, when it's time to specialize. Fully get that. But
I would say 14 and up.
yeah, I'd probably be around that same time as well. But you're not doing that. And this is going to get into the conversation. I've got a sheet in front of me that I had printed out since last week, but it'll be probably more about the cost conversation, how ridiculous some of this is. But when you've got programs that have 8U and 10U AAA levels, I mean, that's a third grader up to like a fifth grader. You want them spending that kind of money on AAA hockey, but that also means it's a specialized thing at that point. If you're going to play at that level, I don't care how old you are, that's all you're doing. You're not going to spend your summers playing baseball or soccer or golf or doing whatever that you should be doing. You know, you ask any of these guys, you know, it's mind-boggling to me. Gretzky, and he literally said this on air like 3 weeks ago. He preferred baseball as a kid. And he was a hell of a lacrosse player too. His favorite sport wasn't hockey.
Sidney Crosby grew up playing baseball.
And again, it's beating a dead horse because everybody our age and older says this all the time. Nothing ever happens. There's too much money involved for it to happen. Again, the whole other conversation we're going to have. But the specialized sports in any sport is out of control. And I would love nothing more as a coach that wants to see kids get better. I would love nothing more than for these showcases. They don't have to go away, but they need to change. And they need to go back to teaching skills, not here's a jersey, there's your team. We're going to go throw you on the ice and play a game. You guys don't know each other. Let's just go screw around. As a coach, I
think Global has a practice where they just
they do. They do one or two practices. But again, you know, I'd love to go back to the days of, you know, when I'd spend a week or two in Peterborough, Ontario, going to Stars hockey camp, or, you know, Minnesota hockey camps especially, which was epic because that was just such a setup there. It's gone now. Someone bought the land up there. It was right on that lake and that I can't pronounce. And, you know, you spent the week,
a lot of lakes for you,
learning skills. And then the game at the end of the week was actually a big deal. That's when they invited the parents, because the parents weren't there during the week.
Yeah,
it was just the kids. You were just there learning skills, and then they invited the parents for the game, and you got like the NHL intro. They had the spotlights out and everything, and they made a big deal of it. Like, it was a big deal. But you led up to it by getting better as a hockey player, not saying, here's your jersey, go play.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, and that's the problem. That's the difference between a showcase and a camp or / development camp. Showcase it's a showcase for the people running it because they're showcasing how many kids and how much money they can bring in. And it's no disrespect to them. They're cool, especially if you're a lot of kids that like are on the same team and they want to play together again a little bit more in the summer, whatever. But the development camps, you're right, man. Like I think the last development camp I ever did was at Shattuck St. Mary's after my senior year of high school. I went out there for a week. I stayed in the dorms and did a camp, and it was great. And we had to cut it short by 2 days because the Shattuck rink, their compressor broke and the ice melted.
Everything that we're talking about is always going to come back to the same thing, and that's money. Because the only place you're getting generally speaking, I don't want to get, narrow this down too much, but generally speaking, the only place you're getting these truly skill teachings is not even in a lot of youth practices, because, you've got ice for an hour, which means your practice, if you're lucky, is 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then if you're not doing
15 minutes, kids just skating around.
And if you're not doing a very good job as a coach and you don't know what you're doing, even though, as much as I had issues with ADN when it first came out, there's a lot about it that I do like, and it's grown on me. If you haven't pre-planned your practice, and I don't even just mean among yourself, but with your players before the locker room, you're spending too much time at the board in practice. Now that hour-long practice has gotten even shorter, so it's less time on the ice teaching. So what does that turn into? Well, it's a coach saying, hey, guess what? I can give you private lessons.
Yeah.
Give me some more money.
Yeah.
Give me more money. When you could be using that same money for a week or two in the summer, go send your kid to camp, go, have a week or two, your kid's gone, you do your thing, mom and dad, pick them up when they're done, they've learned the game, and then take their skates away from them for the next month and tell them to go do something else.
Go play something else. Go play golf, go water skiing.
yeah, go play soccer, go play baseball, do both. I don't care. There's 2 sports right there that'll make you a better hockey player all day long.
That is a phenomenal point, because I think back to when I was a kid. I wakeboarded, I was water skiing when I would go visit. In the summers, I didn't skate at all. I was out visiting my dad in Seattle. And
I
then
did
I
the
would do all
camps.
those things. Baseball, I was huge we were both big time
Both.
baseball players.
I said I would do the camps.
Yep.
And I was on the ice a lot just on my own, but not like teaching. My parents ran rinks, so I got to go skate and I'd hang out. But it wasn't something they were saying, you have to go do this or you're not going to be a good hockey player. It's like, I just wanted to be out there. In fact, they would have to drag me off. But when I wasn't at those camps over the summer, I was playing baseball. I was primarily soccer up until a point. I kind of got bored with soccer, even though I do love it still to this day. But I was playing baseball, man. Baseball constantly. And then when hockey season started up again, it was all hockey. But I did both. And the only reason I stopped the baseball thing is I went to Northwood. Like after my sophomore year of high school, you can't see it on yours unless you do the full screen, but my old catcher's helmet is sitting up here, Lexington Academy. That was the last year I played organized baseball and won a state championship. Last time I ever played, won a state championship. And then a few months later, I was in Lake Placid, New York, where they didn't have a baseball team. And it was
Northwood didn't have a baseball team?
Oh God, no.
I didn't know that.
No, they haven't had baseball since like probably the 50s or 60s.
Wow.
They have hockey, they have soccer, they have skiing.
Probably
had a tennis. They had a tennis team while I was there. They now have a golf team, and they have lacrosse.
How's that for a home golf course right there in the mountains?
Oh, man, I played every day. When hockey season ended, we were playing every day. Well, as soon as we weren't skiing, because when hockey season ended, we were skiing because we weren't allowed to understandably during the season.
Yeah, and because there's still plenty of snow on the mountain there.
Oh, there's nothing better than spring skiing.
Oh God, it's the best.
Go out in shorts. You kidding me?
Oh yeah, we used to go in our snow pants, our t-shirts and gloves and a hat.
It's the best.
Yep.
But yeah, played a lot of golf up there. Man, I like coming back to the Northwood talk and the Lake Placid talk.
Northwood. So a lot of people will talk about their addictions.
By the way, I switched it around so you can see I'm still figuring this out. The beer stein is over here now. Yeah, there.
Yeah, I see. I can see a little bit of it. Yeah. Cliff just waving away.
Yeah, it's over here.
Well, it's funny too because I have 2 different views. I have this one view. Oh, this should be talked about off screen, but this is what we do. But then I also got my camera view. But anyway, yeah, it's so let's come to the conclusion. I think actually, Cliff, I think you hammered the point multiple times there. Not really so much of a showcase. You should, if you're doing something in the summer, find somewhere that's gonna talk to the kids and teach them about the life surrounding the game, because they do need to know those things. Even if you're not gonna be doing off ice combine stuff, but definitely provide them with a great off ice training regimen to do in the off season. Then you have 4 or 5 days of practice, 3, 4, or 5 days of practice, and then you have your game at the end where you kind of get to apply everything you did in camp. And I think just for a hockey player, you don't even have to make it the big deal. Like, it's cool when you said they had like the NHL intros and stuff, but you don't even need to do all that. Have the day where the parents come to the game and whatnot. Have the day. That's the day. Scouts can come whenever, but then they get to see you playing the game.
Well, and again, back then we're talking about, this was in the 90s, early 90s when I was going to Minnesota hockey camps. This had nothing to do with scouts. This was just pure skills camp.
No, but I'm just saying.
No one was coming to those games. No, I know. I get that, but I do. But here, I want to end my side of it this way, because there's been, I won't say we've completely like bashed all these things, but we've given more probably cons than pros. But I will say this. Here's how I'd approach the off season. First of all, in the off season, definitely find something else to do at some point. Even if it's just going fishing, get away from the rink. Just get away.
Especially if it's another sport, you'll be a better athlete.
100%. Go play golf for sure. But
unless you got a short temper like me, don't go play golf.
When researching where to go, ask around. Obviously, I don't know that I would say even necessarily ask us, but as we will say at the end here, obviously if send us questions, comments, we'll do the best we can. But John and I are both the same. If we don't know the answer, we'll find someone that does. But ask around, ask your teammates, ask if you're a parent, ask other parents, what kind of experience did you have here? What kind of experience you have there? Do they offer the off-ice education side of things where you sit in a room and there's coaches from all levels teaching you about what is the ACHA really? What is it all about? NCAA rules. What are the NCAA rules? What is the clearinghouse? What is all this? Like, go somewhere where they're educating you on the next steps in your hockey career. To me, that's in some circumstances, that's better than anything that's going on the ice. If I'm a parent in particular, because those are the questions I would have. So find those kind of camps where those questions are being answered, and obviously make sure in talking to people that coaches are showing up to these things. They are there. We know some that they just don't. I'll use, and I know Global's a bad example because the coaches are all there, but the problem is they're not necessarily in the building.
Especially in Vegas.
They're in Vegas. They might not be in the building. A lot of them are, but again, it depends on the camp and how it's run. So just make sure, don't just go in blind, I guess is the short answer. Ask around. I'm sure you've got plenty of people around you, depending on where you are, that have gone through this. If you don't, it shouldn't be too hard to find some online. Talk to your current coach. Say, hey, do you know of anybody that's gone through this? If they don't have the answers for you, but don't go into anything ever blind. In particular, when it comes to signing contracts and all that kind of stuff, which we'll get into for sure at some point.
Yeah, and honestly, I would also like to even hear from some of the newer and different advisory groups that are out there. The hockey advisory people. Again, I talked about this podcast earlier. It was actually run by some hockey advisory company. And Heffy is on that. Doesn't mean they're good just because he's a social media presence, but I'd be interested in hearing from them and say, what do they do for players and what's their, because they're the ones that are in it, honestly, more than anything, because they're getting paid by players and or teams to facilitate all this kind of stuff. So we kind of need to know, what are they doing for them? And honestly, I would like to know, even just building up a new contact list of these, because we've both said we've dealt with a couple people that had their advisory companies and they were total bad.
Yeah, if you're an advisor, we'd love to talk to you, love to have you on here. There's a couple of you know who you are. We don't want to talk to you, so don't even bother. You know who you are.
The best part is
Shove it.
Two or three of them immediately are like, oh, I think he's talking about me.
Damn right I'm talking about you.
Here's the best part. They're saying we're talking about them just because they think the world is always talking about them.
Yeah, I know. But I'm not mentioning their names because they also like to sue people.
Yeah, blindly.
Yeah, jackass.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah, their first name is Jack, their last name is Bass.
I digress again. But no, John's right though. If you're in that industry these days, whether it's in the States and Canada or all of North America, we'd love, and there's a couple guys I know that I'll probably reach out to. I'd love to actually talk to Caprio a bit. I'll talk to him.
Some of these people on here to talk.
Yeah, there's a lot of, it's as I've thought about this more and more, there's so many people on a list that I want to talk to about various things, and that list includes non-hockey people that I would love to chat with. But
Cliff, like I said, Cliff will be here for as much of the sport stuff.
He's not getting rid of me. I'm going to be here for all of it.
Cliff,
I'm going to find a way.
I almost just said a joke that's not really internet appropriate, but
shocker.
He'll definitely be here for for as much of the sports stuff as possible, especially up until his hockey season starts, and because Cliff and I were roommates in multiple places. Like, we talked about Red
Everything.
Stag and sports.
Life, man.
Yeah, and
Life.
but the thing is we both played a lot of sports, and so it's not like we're just like two guys who said, yeah, well, we played t-ball and then spent it all in hockey.
But again, as I said, and you and I have said this off camera, and we said it last week, it's a lot more than sports. We've done a lot of stuff. You've been on one side of the music industry, I've been on the other side of it. We've just done a lot, man. We've had real shit jobs here and there. We've had good jobs here and there. It's just there's a lot.
And here we are still somehow with our big dumb heads above water.
Yeah, it's debatable. Very debatable.
I think we've done well on time. Everybody who's listened, we
Well,
appreciate you.
last time we said that, we kept going for another like 20, 30 minutes.
Well,
So
then
maybe
stop interrupting me. We done well on time. We appreciate everybody who's listened. Again, advisors, hockey people, reach out, comment on anywhere you see this stuff posted. We'll have some highlights posted as well.
coaches,
From
everybody.
and after, coaches for sure. And then we'd even, honestly, it'd be fun even to talk to some players that are going through the ranks right now, what they're experiencing on the player level, because they're the ones that are either getting the benefits or being dragged through the mud. But again, we appreciate it. This is All Angles Podcast. I still need a cool outro song. In the meantime, we're just going to have Cliff sing. So, Cliff, take it away.
That ain't happening.
Thanks,
Not
guys.
a chance in hell.
Are you going to say bye?
Oh, bye. Bye, John.
It's so rude.
Waiting for the music.